Hello and welcome to T3's Week in Tech podcast. I'm Sam.
I'm Emily.
And we are back with more of the latest technology. It's been quite a quiet week. There's no big launches or whatever, but we have seen quite a lot of rumours coming about. I've actually drummed up a few pieces that have caught my eye from this week. There's actually quite a lot of things that have caught my eye, so maybe we dive into some of that.
Yeah, let's go for it.
Right. Where do you want to start? Pick a brand for me. We got Samsung, Apple, Sonos, Nintendo. Sonos, right. Let's start with Sonos.
Let me guess, it's something about how everything's falling apart?
Well, less so than it was, apparently.
That's
so
good.
I'm not entirely across this story, right? It's to do with the app. They released a second version of the app that kind of didn't work.
I have no idea. I
Okay.
don't ever manually update mine, and I don't ever use the app, truthfully.
So basically, the update that we had as of yesterday, as we were recording this, is the Chief Innovation Officer at Sonos has provided an update on the firm's troubled app, detailing recent improvements and setting out a new set of fixes.
So sorry. Just
They have said there's still significant work to be done. My question to you with this is, Sonos is a massive company, right? So it's gone from, as far as I understand the situation, it's gone from a V1 of an app to a V2 of an app. And the V2 has basically caused untold problems.
I mean, I know it caused a lot of issues back when, and I guess this is because people who use the Sonos ecosystem already were having issues with it. I did not have that issue. I think the app is a little bit crap, but I think most third-party apps for a device that I'm using with my iPhone, because that's what I do. I mean, the headphones, I love them, but they're flawed, you know, but they sound brilliant to me, and I love them. But I have never really used the app too much. There's just not too much need to change after that initial setup, you know?
Sure.
So unless they're acting up or something, I don't really use it. So I don't really know what people mean when they're like, because I don't know how they use it regularly.
I think it's more potentially to do with the speaker setups and things that they have where you might use it more in that context. But I find it interesting that a company as big as Sonos can be having such a big issue in this realm. And I don't mean that in any bad way. Like I love Sonos. I think they make some fantastic products, but it just baffles me sometimes to think that you've got a company with this big of a impact and they're struggling to do something which I guess on the face of it looks quite basic.
Well, they've been struggling for a while, and it's been very bad. like for a really long time now, they've just been plagued by shitty upgrade after shitty upgrade.
There was
not upgrades.
There was a moment, I believe, in recent months. I'm saying recent. At some point in this journey, there was they reverted back to the original version for a small period of time, right? So they went back to the original version of the app while they worked on fixing the second one. Why don't they just do that full time, fix the second one, and then bring it back?
Is that not what's happened?
I don't believe so. As I say, perhaps this was the worst one to pick because I'm not especially on top of this news, but it feels to me like they are kind of trying to upgrade as they go and I can't work out.
That's
the
what Apple's
reasoning
doing,
for
though,
that.
isn't it? Oops. But I have to say, this is twofold, right? Like, for me at least, I think it is a cycle. Once you get into the cycle of having released a bad product, then each time you release it again or update it or something, there's going to be even more scrutiny, right? Because you've messed it up once, so now people are really paying attention, and they're like, haha, you've messed it up again and again and again, and then they end up, firing their whole C-suite because isn't that what they did, or they resigned or something.
Let's move on from Sonos. I want to talk about the iPhone 17, specifically the iPhone 17 Air. So there's been a slew of rumors this week, and there's three I'm going to quickly fire at you, and we can delve into them as we need to.
Quick fire.
So the latest one, the iPhone 17 entire range, all four models, base, Air, Pro Max.
Also Plus.
No.
It's gonna be fun. Are they getting rid of the Plus?
It looks like the Air is the new Plus from the rumors that we've seen.
Sorry, I didn't mean to scream that loudly, but
Well, hang on. We'll get into that because the dummies are part of this. Just hold on. So, iPhone 17, entire range, tipped to have a 24 megapixel front-facing camera upgraded from the 12. That's number one. Number two is that we've seen all 4 dummies of the devices. So we've seen the 4 models that we've just spoke about, the base, Air, Pro, Pro Max, in dummy form. All 4 look to use MagSafe and include an action button, which is big because we thought that the iPhone Air might miss out on MagSafe due to its thickness. And then number 3, we've heard a leak about the iPhone 17 Air price, and it sounds like it could be pretty big news and not good news if you're a Samsung fan. So let's dive into those. Where do you want to start?
But well, I mean, you saying about the Air missing out on MagSafe, or not missing out on MagSafe, that's really interesting because I just got, I mean, obviously the 16E doesn't have MagSafe at all. So I guess it isn't a thickness issue, but it is a money issue, financial issue. Like, what do you think the problem? Why was that left out?
I suspect on the 16E it's left out because otherwise it would be far too close to the 16 base model.
Oh.
I'm guessing that they need to do something to differentiate it.
Yeah.
It probably does come down to cost to a degree as well, but yeah, I think it's almost entirely to differentiate it from the other models. Interestingly, with the Air, the case thickness is so small that we kind of thought you wouldn't have room for the architecture to put MagSafe functionality in the box. But that doesn't look to be the case, which is really exciting. I also love that it's got the action button. I think it really does look like it's going to be a fully fledged member of the iPhone family, and I think that's really cool because I was slightly worried for a period of time that it might be a bit of an ugly duckling.
Yeah. I'll be interested to see what's going on. It feels like a bit of a mess at the moment.
Okay.
All of Apple's phones. I mean, I love their devices individually, but it doesn't have that cohesiveness that Apple used to have.
I do feel like I feel like Apple for the longest time has had 3 good phones. The base model, the Pro and the Pro Max have always been pretty decent. But whether it was the Mini or the Plus or now the Air, it's felt like they're always cycling, just trying to figure out what that 4th device is. And I wonder if actually the 4th device just doesn't really need to be there. Because ultimately...
They've been doing it since the 5, haven't they? With the 5C. Yeah. That was like their original...
But if you were buying an iPhone, it's always the least sold device, isn't it? The Mini or the Plus that we've had before has always been the one that sells the least.
My mom has the Plus.
Interesting.
She's the only person I've ever seen that uses a base model Plus.
I would love a Plus, to be honest.
Yeah.
But you're £100 away from a Pro model that's smaller but has more features, or you save an extra £100 and just get the smaller one. And you could put that towards extra storage. It's never really made functional sense to me. And a lot of people seem to agree because we've seen sales figures, right? I kind of hope that the Air is the antidote to this. I know I've been quite vocal about not liking slim phones as a concept. Yeah. And I said this recently in an article, I don't think I'd buy one. I don't think it'll be very comfortable. I'm honestly not a massive fan of the idea, but I cannot say that I don't like it because it is at least innovation. And for the last few years, the phone industry has been horrifically stagnant. So to see companies actually starting to innovate again, I really like it. I'm excited to see where it goes.
Yeah. I think I don't hate the idea of the phone itself, but I do hate, again, the lineup. The pure, like, not... It doesn't seem like they know doesn't seem like they know what consumer to aim each of their models at. And they're just kind of throwing everything at the wall at this point. And I never ever think that's a good strategy. And I think that's the thing that Apple always kind of set itself apart from other companies with, is that other companies were always like, oh God, we'll just put everything out there and hope something works. And Apple's always felt very, very deliberate. Not so much recently.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't think that's the case.
And I think that is a
recently.
marketing problem, mostly.
I think... It's an interesting one, but it feels very much like there's a little bit of a disconnect between the Apple of old and the Apple of new.
Yes.
And I think that it's an interesting one because obviously this is probably going a little deeper than we desperately need to here, but I guess like maybe not Tim Cook so much because he's been around a little while now, but you kind of want to put your stamp on an era as the CEO of a company, don't you? If you're in that position, it's sort of your legacy. And Steve Jobs is so iconic and so renowned for what he did to Apple that actually you've got a real mountain to climb. And I think it's possibly a sign that there is a little bit of pressure creeping into the back of some executive's mind. I'm not necessarily saying Mr. Cook himself, but someone there
He's writing emails. More phones, please.
I think you can kind of see that someone there is panicking a little bit, going, what have we really changed? What have we done differently? And I just don't think that at the minute they have that. I am just going to hold you there for a second, because while we're on the subject of the slim phones, we need to talk about the leaked pricing.
Yes, this is really interesting, to be honest.
Within the space of a day, we learned rumored pricing for the iPhone 17 Air and the Samsung Galaxy S25 Edge. Those are the two slim phones that we are expecting in the next year. Samsung's is expected to release in around April time, so pretty close.
Okay, right.
And that's said to be the equivalent of $1,200. Right?
Okay.
Apple, sorry, I can't count, $1,300 it was.
Okay.
Apple's is said to be $899 as a start price. And I've got to say, I don't know if there's going to be enough on the Samsung spec sheet to warrant the extra. Basically, what we've seen is that the Samsung model is going to have a pretty decent battery, actually, overall. 3,900 milliamp hours compared to 4,000 in the base model S25. So it's not actually that bad of a battery. The 200 meg camera from the S25 Ultra, 200 megapixel.
Yeah.
And I think that's being paired with a 50 megapixel second sensor. There was rumors at one point that was going to be a 12, but I think it seems to be the consensus that they've settled on a 50. Otherwise, it's, an 8 Elite chip and whatever. I think that's too much for that phone.
Yeah. It's interesting, right? Because we're getting to a point where companies are like, so it's like a slimmer phone. Should we be paying less or more?
It's a really good point, actually, because
Right?
that is pretty much exactly how this looks.
So like less material crammed more into it, or less of a phone,
It's the same argument you have with cars, right? Because they always used to say you had a Porsche 911 and then the 911 like GT3 RS or something, where they've actually stripped away a lot of weight and whatever was, and what you end up with is a fantastic work of engineering that has less in it that you pay more for. And it's sort of the same thing here, right? Where we're stripping away a lot of the stuff of the phone, but does it actually make it better? And if it does...
Is it stripping it away, though? I mean, physically, yeah.
yeah, exactly. but very physically, that's what we're talking about here. Ultimately, if these devices still perform as well as their counterparts, and I'm not yet convinced that they will, the thing with removing all of that material is that you're also removing cooling, you're removing potentially battery capacity. Cooling.
Okay. I'm sorry.
We've just seen the US-UK divide right there on camera.
I was like, that's our number one story if they've removed cooling.
Cool. So, there's potential that there's just a lot of hurdles to overcome, right? And ultimately, it's either going to be a flop or it's going to be, how the heck did you do that? And I really hope that we end up with the second, because I think it could be interesting, if nothing else. I think it could be a really good moment for Apple. If their 17 Air is as good as it should be for that money, I think it'll be one of the best things they've put out in a few years.
And I'm sorry. Okay, this is my last little bit about the Apple conundrum, because I've just figured out in my head. Apple used to be the trendsetters, and they used to tell us what we wanted. They used to give us a phone. We all go, okay, I guess we'll upgrade. And like, if you're like me, you look at a phone and be like, ugh, ugly. And then like, a few months down the line, I'm like, actually, that looks really good. And it's like, because I am, easily influenced. Okay. But I think that's not unlike the majority of people. Okay. Like, I don't think that's necessarily a negative thing. But Apple used to do that, and you didn't really get a choice. You just This is the new phone. If you want the new features, this is the phone. This is the design we're going with. Here we go. Now they're kind of like, you guys want slimmer? Would you like rounded edges? How about some more cameras?
I do get your point.
And now it's kind of like, oh, they're letting the consumer lead. Whereas I think that confidence of Apple being like a trendsetter was kind of the magic. I don't know.
I don't necessarily disagree with you. Personally, I think Apple stuck with one design for slightly too long. And it means that they're trying to get away from it is proven really difficult because anything you do at that point is radical. I think if around the iPhone 13, 14, somewhere like that, they sort of went, hey, we're going to try something different, you know, whatever it may be. I don't have any suggestions, but, you know, it could be a rounded back, whatever you want.
I just really want to be in the room where it happens. I want to be like, I want to be a little fly on the wall in those rooms where they're discussing this type of thing.
And it's one of those things, right, where it's obviously done. It's so clearly done because consumers buy it.
Yeah.
Right? So they've obviously gone, okay, well, they bought 80 million of this phone, so let's make another one that looks the same, does some other stuff on the inside, and we tweak this and we tweak that. But broadly, it looks the same. But the trouble is, when you do that for so many years, you get to a point then where making any change becomes a really radical moment for the brand, and so you can't get it wrong.
Like, do you remember when, I don't know, God, I was in elementary school and people had the iPhone 4. And then when we got the iPhone 5, and that was the time when the button changed, right? Because it no longer had the little square on it. It became just like a solid button. And it got a little taller, I think.
It was haptic, wasn't it?
Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it got a little bit taller as well. Then we were all like, oh, wow. That's a different iPhone. It was so different from the 4. If you're looking at, if you're comparing that kind of, jump to this to the modern day generation jump, like that was crazy. And then we went up to the 6, and is the 6 it's not quite where we lost the button, is it? But like each one of those was progressively different, and you could look at someone's phone and think that is the new iPhone, or now you can't really tell. It's more like if you know the colors off the back of your hand, which we do because we're crazy and this is our job. Like that's the only way I can be like, oh, the aquamarine, that's a new phone. Nobody normal knows that though.
That's a good point.
Yeah,
because it's not the only brand that does that. It's complete sideswipe, but the Fuji X100 series, the cameras that have taken the world by storm and you can't really buy anywhere,
looks not that indistinguishable from the X105. Right.
Not only that, the design team who build this series have been told from the top down that they want them to look the same from series to series from the front. They want it so that you wear the camera around your neck and people can't tell whether you've got the original one or the 6. And that's part of the design choice. They want it to look the same.
I mean, I like that, but that is like a decision that they've...
I don't really get that personally.
I do. I mean, imagine, remember how like the original Instagram icon was like the Polaroid camera because that was so synonymous with photography, like artistic photography. And I think that's what Fuji's trying to do is make something that's so just,
from looking at it from like a business perspective, surely what you want is someone to be able to say, oh, I've got this one, but they've got that one. And I've heard that one does this. And it's
But if you're a camera nerd, hopefully you do know that, right?
But you wouldn't be able to tell from looking. You'd have to go up to the guy.
There's not a tiny little difference. I mean, I'm not a Fujifilm. Like, I haven't really...
I mean, they're very similar.
Right.
Very similar. You would need to... You'd need to be really close enough that you may as well just ask, basically. It's just... we don't need to go into the depths of it.
I guess they're just different products is the thing.
It's just interesting to me that brands are now looking at it almost as if they want to go, it doesn't matter what version you have as long as you're in the club.
Yeah.
Interested.
Yeah.
Let's roll on because I'm conscious that we've moved into...
I love these chats. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hopefully you guys also love these chats.
Right. Stick with Apple or move away and come back?
Depends. What was the other one?
HomePod with display. We're calling it the Home Hub, but I don't know if that's what it's going to be called. Is still expected this year, despite the issues with Siri, which we thought was going to delay it.
Yeah.
We were wrong by the sounds of it. Apple might have already announced multiple devices this year, but more are set to come. The HomePod with a smart display is still reported to be arriving within the next few months, despite reports of a delay to the revamped Siri.
When you say smart, when you say a display on the top to replace the current like little glowy?
No, from what we've heard, it's going to be an iPad-like design. Think like the Google Home Hub or I think it was the Google Pixel tablet that did the kind of Home Hub thing, but in a more expensive. Basic.
I mean, the iPad does that currently.
Sure.
What's special?
This is the one that we've seen reports of where it's on like an arm, not dissimilar to these actually. So it can like stand up. We don't really know, but it's back basically. It's an iPad-like display, controls your home, smart home functionality.
And it's a lot cheaper, right? Because that would make the difference between that and just having a stationary iPad.
We won't know till it's out. But it's an interesting.
That's not true.
The one good thing I do think about this is that I think it shows that the Siri's closer than maybe some of the reports suggested. When we learned about Siri getting delayed and whatnot, there was a lot of talk that it was actually quite far away from being ready.
Yeah, they were like 2026, weren't they?
I don't think that's the case. I
really hope that's not the case.
I think it's going to be the big thing at WWDC personally this year. I think what they're doing is just because we're obviously only 3 months away from WWDC at this point. Yeah. I think they're actually going, right, let's shelve that for now because it's not just going to have 3 months. So we'll pull that back. And then in the summer, we go, you saw it last year and now it's here.
Well, God, I hope so.
Bang.
Yeah. I mean, unless that has like a lot of features that you can't have from just having HomeKit set up your iPad, then I'm going to expect it to be a lot cheaper. It needs to be cheaper, especially if it only sits there. I mean, that's, I think, the mistake that Amazon makes with their home hubs, right, is they're massive. It's just like kind of a TV, glorified TV, just, less mobile, doesn't do as much as you need it to. So I really hope that's what Apple's aiming for, like a complementary product rather than one product to rule them all kind of situation. Because and I hope too that they don't go away from like the HomePod minis being able to serve as your home hub, right? Because a lot in HomeKit hinges on you having one of those hubs that can serve as a bridge. I mean, God, I have a million bridges in my house at this point from all the different products, but yeah,
certainly an interesting one. Anyway.
Yeah. Hopefully they don't take away that functionality though from the normal HomePods that are just beautiful
surprised.
Speakers.
Yeah, I'd be surprised. While we're on the topic of Apple, one last one from me. AirPods Pro are said to be getting a new feature in the coming months, presumably again as part of the update cycle that we're expecting around the summertime with WWDC. That's said to be an AI-powered live translation, similar to what we saw with Samsung and Google, all that sort of stuff through the buds. Thoughts?
I have questions. Are the buds actually doing it, or is that a feature that is coming to iPhone where like it's doing? Where's the computational power for that? Is that happening on iPhone and you've just got to have buds to do it, or are the buds literally capable of doing something? In which case, I'd expect them to release something new, and it's not just a software update.
No, so it's not. It is going to be a software update coming to the existing AirPods Pro.
Why can't that software work on other earbuds?
I don't know. Then
it's not really a feature that's coming to the AirPods, then, is it? It's kind of a feature that's coming to Apple.
I think it's designed for those who have got the ecosystem put together.
Well, of course.
That it says that it'll work.
Sorry, I'm being pedantic.
No, that's fine. You're allowed. Works pretty much exactly as you'd expect. Say you're speaking English, and the other person is speaking in Spanish. The AirPods Pro will directly translate what they're saying into English for you. And then when you speak, your iPhone will project your voice in Spanish back to the other speaker. I've got to say on this topic, never seen anything like this that actually works as advertised. Have you? You
know what? I had a taxi driver in Berlin. You know how I smile at everyone because I'm American and we're dummies. He was like, oh, I never see people smile at me. That must be a conversation. Like, literally, he was like, People never smile at me. So he was like, let's try to converse. And except I was like, obviously, I just speak English. And he was like, I only speak German. So he pulls up Google Translate on his phone, holds it up there, and then speaks to me through it, shows me the screen. I read the screen. I speak my bit back. He reads it, which is a little disconcerting when you're driving. But anyways, we had a whole conversation like that. It was a little bit stilted, but like, it worked overall.
Actually, you've just reminded me.
Have you had that experience as well?
In another life, many moons ago, I used to work in a music shop. I once sold a guitar to a man who only spoke Portuguese through Google Translate. He said he spoke into his phone, passed it to me, it read it out, I spoke back, he had it. There was only once or twice where he sort of went, what? And I was like, give it back, I'll try it again in a different, like I've sort of said, you know, some sort of English idiom or whatever. And it worked. And I managed to complete the sale. It was the most bizarre 10 minutes of my life, but it worked. And what I find really interesting is that worked. And that was, I mean, 2017, 2018.
The thing is, it really can't get much better at this point. I don't think we're at a point where, because really what you need is something that's actually real time. But there's always going to be a delay with this type of thing. Like, especially with like Samsung's translation stuff was cool. Like, I've seen it demoed in real life. The only thing is, if you're on the phone with somebody, because it's like on a phone call, right? And if you're on the phone with somebody, you're gonna have some problems because you can't explain to the person, hey, I'm going to use my translation app really quickly, so there's going to be some odd delays while you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's just that initial kind of hopping over.
I know what you mean. I think it's interesting. I think it's weird. I'm not entirely sure it works yet, but it's definitely a cool thing to see, and it should level out the playing field a little bit if you're an Apple fan. Let's do the CMF Phone 2. We've seen a hands-on leak with the device, and there's two interesting things that I want to pull out from it. Firstly, there's another camera sensor. So the original just had the 2, which was actually just one uses a camera and a depth sensor. There's a third one now. Don't know what it is. I'm going to make the guess that it's a main sensor, an ultra wide and a depth sensor. I also don't think the design's quite as sleek as the original one because of it. It almost looks like the third one is kind of propped onto the case. The reason why I wanted to talk about this, it looks as though the screw mounts on the back, which was on the CMF Phone 1, how you removed the back case and added accessories, they look to be in the same place, which potentially means that accessories bought with the CMF Phone 1 will also work with the CMF Phone 2. And I just wanted to take a moment to say, if that is true, congratulations, Nothing and CMF, for doing something that even the most established brands in the market cannot do, which is take something so simple that, you know,
it's so consumer friendly.
It is, but you genuinely so consumer friendly, so planet friendly.
But you know what? That makes sense as a budget phone because obviously the market they're aiming at isn't going to be buying.
Sure, but also what really irks me more than anything, right, is that, you know, this year, I'm
You're
using
going to bring up Apple again, aren't you?
I am, because they've done that haptic camera capture button on the side. And that means that every single case manufacturer has had to build in a little haptic sensor on their case to push through and make sure it works, right? Now, that means that when you upgrade your iPhone, whether that's in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, whatever it may be, you're going to throw away a phone case that cannot be used, that is jammed full of a little bit of tech now as well. It is so much e-waste, and it is so much unnecessary waste. And it's all done in the name of profit, and it really irks me. So I just want to say, CMF Phone, of course, I'm saying all this as well. It could be that those screws are ever so slightly out of whack, and all of this is for nothing. But at the minute, it does look like they're going to be the same, and I just wanted to commend it because I think that is a fantastic decision, if so.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing with most Apple phones too, right? Is they always look like you're going to be able to do it. And you're like, I so often find myself going, why can't I use this case with this product? And then they're usually like, it's actually 0.00 5 millimeters off, actually, so it's not going to fit right. It's actually going to destroy your device.
It's so
I
infuriating.
do wonder, though, I mean, if you have enough, like, willpower, I feel like you could just shove your 16 into a 15 case. Have we tried it?
I'm not sure that's recommended.
I mean, I know you won't have the little button thing, but...
Well, also, the thing that bugs me, so the way it tends to go, right, is that one spec will be ever so slightly bigger, like a millimeter or half a millimeter or something. The other one will be slightly shorter, and then that one will be slightly bigger. So it's just ever so slightly a different dimension, and then it won't fit. Anyway, so that was one there. Let's jump back now. So 2 Samsung stories and a Nintendo. What would you like to do first?
Nintendo!
Right. This one is of least interest to me, but I will roll with it.
Oh, I'm so thrilled.
Nintendo Switch 2 price and release date predicted following claims by ex-employee.
Do tell.
They will reportedly release the Switch successor this June. It's also claimed that the Switch 2 will cost somewhere in the region of $400 and $499.
No. 404. What?
That's what it says.
Will they have a light version? They better have a light. Actually, I don't know. I might, because I currently have a light. My partner has a regular.
The regular,
coincidentally, I also bought for him. But
it's about £320 here, isn't it? So it is.
No, it was maybe 400 when it launched.
Was it?
Years ago? Jesus.
So it does say that there is a new chip in it, which is likely to be part of the reason why it's more expensive. Yeah, there you go. The original Switch launched at $299.99, and with inflation, that equates to about $390 today. So we're looking at an inflation included increase.
So my feelings were correct.
Yeah, it's a little bit more, but it's broadly the same as what it was in real terms back then.
Okay.
Or maybe like $100 more expensive. But we're talking about a different chip in there, which could kind of warrant that.
And I always forget that it is supposed to be a console rather than like a handheld gaming. Like, because it's so easy to forget that. Because I mean, I have the Switch Lite, but you know, they want it to be a stationary console.
Do you know what? There's probably a podcast episode in that, because I actually think, having used a couple of the handhelds, the bridge between consoles and handhelds is getting ever so much smaller.
Well, I mean, not really though, is it? Because I mean, famously, Nintendo has a huge lack of games because.
Sure. But I'm thinking of like
the other day. Sorry, slight diversion. I realized the other day that you can get Skyrim on a Nintendo Switch, and I know, God, that was like a 2011 game, right? So long ago, but it doesn't feel like that long ago to me. And I was like, oh shoot, like it can run on here.
I do like a bit of Skyrim, I must say.
I know, I got back into it quite recently.
The one thing I was going to say, the ROG Ally, because you know, obviously that is a Windows PC built into a PSP case.
You know, I'm a Steam Deck girl.
Sure, but I'm using the Ally for this example because I've seen people using it in instances where you would use a computer, but it's cumbersome to take a computer. You take that, and you've got a full Windows PC setup in a smaller pack.
I do that. Dude, I do that, except it's obviously Linux, but I do that with my Steam Deck. Like if I'm trying to mod stuff on my Steam Deck, obviously it's a little bit difficult to like go tap, 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 you know, with a little tappy screen. So I usually just plug it into my monitor and pull out my mouse and keyboard, and then I'm good to go. And it's a full-blown Linux computer. I actually tried to download the other day. So because my work computer won't download Road Central for, you know, making changes to our mics and stuff, I had to do it on my partner's computer. Before I resorted to that, I was like, you know what? I have a pretty powerful, except obviously Road Central, they don't make it for Linux, and then I wasn't willing to faff around enough. But I did try. I was like, I think this can. But yeah. Yeah,
it's an interesting one, but I'm not a massive Nintendo guy, so this does. Sorry, and I say that I'm not really a massive gaming guy in general. I've no hate on Nintendo. It's certainly an interesting development for the market at large, though.
I'm just an Animal Crossing girl.
Yeah.
But they just really don't have that much. They can't really offer all that many games on it.
No, there's a lot of licensing that's going to get in the way, and I feel like Nintendo's product is its own world, you know.
But it's also like notoriously really hard to like port games to Nintendo, which they've been like,
right.
You know, not that I know about that trouble, because I've never done it, but you know, they always come at a different time. It's like it's either for Nintendo or you're gonna have to wait for like months.
Yeah.
Unless it's a super simple game that it can run, I guess. I don't know.
Well, maybe the chip will change that. I don't know, but
yeah.
Just because we're running slightly tight on time, let's go to our last couple of stories for today.
All right.
Number one, the S Pen. I believe we might have talked about this last week. Maybe the week
Well,
before.
we've talked about the fact that it lost its gestures.
Yes. And we thought that might mean it was on its way out.
Yeah.
But it is not. And that has been confirmed by a Samsung executive. They said that they cannot... Hang on, let me get the quote exactly. I don't see a space where the S Pen is not a key part of our portfolio.
That's good.
So it looks very, very likely that is going to be sticking around for the foreseeable future. And I love that. I think it's really nice. It's a nice differentiator. I think it's a great... I'm glad to see it stay.
Yeah. I just hate that they've, cut it off at the... they've, removed all its...
They removed features that no one was using. I think that's fair.
No. I still hate it.
It was used by less than 1% of users of the S Pen.
No, but a lot of people don't use Apple shortcuts. And what if Apple was actually,
it
no
would be a
one's
fair
using...
and justified business decision if Apple
Oh
went.
no, I'd be so mad.
Yeah, you would.
Yeah.
So is probably the 12 people who are actually using that S Pen feature. But you're the niche. And just while we're on the subject of Samsung, let's also why. Right, the last one from me. The Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 7 is expected to launch later this year. And...
It definitely will, won't it?
Well, we don't know that for definite, but it was very strongly suspected.
Well, what would they release in the summer if not?
Well, actually, I'll come on to something else. Well, no, the Edge is supposedly coming in April.
Yeah,
There's actually rumour that's slightly off topic from what I was about to say. Rumour of a bone conduction headphone coming.
Yeah.
What's that all about? I thought they were kind of gone.
I don't know.
Weird. Anyway, we're not getting into that now because we're talking about this. The Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 7 is said to be coming with the 200 megapixel sensor from the S25 Ultra. That is very exciting because for a long, long time, many people have said that cameras in foldable phones are one of the concessions you have to make in order to enjoy the fold. And to be honest, it's partially true. I've been using one for a while. You kind of get used to what the camera can do, and they're all a little bit different. This is the first time that we're going to see a properly gargantuan phone sensor on a fold, and I think it could be really good.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Not
compromising.
Sorry?
Not having a compromise is good.
I think the really interesting thing...
Like I said, I don't really care about cameras and phones. But if you do, that's amazing.
Yeah, but...
Also, it's very expensive already, so you might as well chuck everything in there.
This is what I was going to say, right? The Ultra at the minute and the Z Fold 6 and the Ultra at the minute feel like two pillars, and you're sort of looking at them going, well, you're kind of both the flagship at once, except the Fold's more expensive, but the S25 Ultra kind of has better specs. So then the Z Fold 7...
for the novelty of it.
I don't want to say novelty because I think that does a disservice to actually how good the technology is. Yeah. But I think that by bringing them closer to one another, I think we're going to see the Z Fold 7 become a much more popular option. I still think that Samsung's foldables are too thick, personally, and I'd love to see them slimmed down. I'm hoping that that's something we see as part of this release.
I love the flip, though. I'm a flip versus fold girl. I'm a flip girl.
Well, and this is the other thing, because the Flip was recently shown. We saw a patented render where the Flip 7 had 3 cameras on it, on the rear of it. So currently it only has 2. It misses the telephoto, which is a very common gripe for potential users. So it looks like there's a potential future version. We don't think it's going to be this year, but a potential future version where that comes into play. That, interestingly, was also... Yeah, that was the right thing to say. Interestingly, that was also shown on a cover display that had a full, like the Motorola.
Yes, please.
So I think that looks like it might be the thing as well. But,
nice.
Sorry, there's a few things to talk about here. Cover display sort of looks like that.
Yeah.
And then it had 1, 2, 3. So there was one design where it was the full glass, and the other where it was kind of cut off alongside. And I actually think that looked like a nicer design. So it'd be interesting to see what they do. I do think it's a bit of a waste having because obviously if you've got 3 cameras there, you're not going to be getting in there do you know what I mean, between the cameras to touch.
Oh, no.
It seems like a bit of a waste. So it'd be interesting to see what they do. But it looks like a really good step forward for Samsung's foldables.
Yeah, it's cool from a design perspective. I know what you mean, waist, but it's still, I feel like, would look pretty cool. But
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's interesting.
So, and that's this week in tech, I think.
Yeah, that's this week in tech. Brilliant. See you
next time for more.
Same time,
I guess.
same place.
Yeah.
Hopefully. No, same time, same place.
Hmm.
Do it.
Okay.
All right. Have a good week.
Take care.